One thing I will say that's a real shame about Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is that not only did it not make as much as it should have done at the worldwide box office, only crossing a little over $1 billion and not even matching up to The Last Jedi's, but also because of the majority of the scenes that were deleted from this movie by Kathleen Kennedy. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, when we look at Star Wars as a sequel trilogy, of course, by Disney, a lot of fans had issues, mainly so with The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. Mostly The Last Jedi. That was the very big film that really created a big divide between the Star Wars community. As far as I know, The Force Awakens was a pretty entertaining film. It had too many beats for beats of A New Hope. That was my main, I guess you could say, criticism about the film by JJ. But other than that, it really left the possibilities open of what they could really do with episodes 8 and 9 that made the film very acceptable at the time, right? So, when we look at The Rise of Skywalker, obviously Disney and Lucasfilm, they went under a lot of different changes and adjustments for this movie. A lot of this was mainly done in order to provide the fans a different tone for the film and to cater the movie to a general audience. And Kathleen Kennedy played a large role in all of this, which is very unfortunate because I think what should have happened after The Last Jedi is that Bob Iger should have just let her go and gotten somebody else as head of Lucasfilm. That's exactly what should have happened, in my point of view at least, on things. So, with that being said, everything related to The Rise of Skywalker, now that both Disney and Lucasfilm are finished with the Skywalker saga, many fans have been curious about the future of the Star Wars franchise after Episode 9, where it's noted that The Rise of Skywalker was by far the most difficult production out of all the Star Wars films for Disney and Lucasfilm, and that Kathleen Kennedy made many choices to the story in late 2019, when the rewrites took place, where it's explained that Kathleen Kennedy made many adjustments to the film in an attempt to have the movie make more money at the box office, as it would attract more so to the general audience for Star Wars. Now, it's explained that before the reshoots took place that between both Kathleen Kennedy, she was very frustrated with Mark Hamill's work as Luke Skywalker in various flashback scenes and even other Force Ghost sequences that were actually going to be a part of the original cut of the film, the initial cut of the movie. It said that Kathleen Kennedy was not impressed with Mark's work as Luke Skywalker, since Mark had the chance to come up with his own lines of dialogue and improvise in the latest Star Wars film. J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio are said to be the ones that allowed Mark Hamill to come up with his own lines of dialogue, and that Kathleen Kennedy was not impressed with the actor's dialogue that was created for Skywalker in the second and third acts of the film. Now, it's established that the film had to undergo reshoots and to reduce the amount of screen time of Luke Skywalker had in Star Wars as a film, and that she actually canceled all of Mark's scenes, where she actually came up with his own lines of dialogue. So, the fact that she actually interrupted with the creative decisions here for this movie really was a big mistake. And the fact that originally it's known that Mark Hamill was even going to have more lines at the very end of Tatooine, on, of course, the world of Tatooine at the very end of the movie, and how those were also cut from the film by Kathleen Kennedy, it's very much, unfortunate that we did not get to actually see something like that. Now, when you think about Star Wars, right, you think about telling a very good story and not just, tinkering with the story constantly. That's exactly what Kathleen Kennedy over at Lucasfilm did. The fact that she was not impressed with Mark's work also shows incompetence as a leader of Star Wars. And to me, when I look at the final product of this movie, I actually went over this before in my initial review and my reaction of Episode 9, is that the movie had a lot of scenes that I certainly loved, but also scenes that I really hated. And I'm sure that you guys have heard this from me before, is that it felt like an emotional roller coaster, where in the beginning, there were scenes that I liked, then there were scenes that I really just disliked to the core. And it was kind of like, do I like this movie? Do I hate this movie? What's going on? I was left very confused, and it's one of the main reasons as to why I had to see the movie twice to make sure my feelings were on point and accurate. So, like I say, everything related to what was done with the sequel trilogy by Kathleen and how a lot of Luke Skywalker scenes were thrown to the wayside because of her being frustrated with Mark Hamill's work and how he came up with his own lines of dialogue and how he improvised. It just tells us that changes need to be made as soon as possible by Bob Iger, and that's exactly what he's doing. We do know that currently Bob Iger is looking for a replacement for Kathleen Kennedy to take over as head of Lucasfilm in order to run Star Wars. And it's really going to be an interesting time when Kathleen Kennedy is replaced, and exactly what the Star Wars universe is going to look like that, you know, when you compare that to how it was done with Kathleen Kennedy. I'm sure it's going to be a major difference unless they get somebody worse or the same as Kathleen Kennedy that's going to mess around with the creative choices. Hopefully not. Given the fact that Bob Iger said that Jon Favreau, he sees a lot of George Lucas in him, that's a real telltale sign that he's really going to hand the keys over to Jon, most likely, or maybe even somebody like Jon that really knows the Star Wars universe at the end of the day and knows Star Wars Legends down to the core. So, like I say, guys, I would really like to hear what each and every one of you have to say about Kathleen Kennedy, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.